Hi there, how are you guys doing? My name is D'Esta Goldsmith. I wanted to jump on here because I took the ACE Health and Wellness Coaching certification last month, and I wanted to kind of get on here and talk about how I passed it the very first time. I wanted to tell you that I bought the book, the thick book, which was thick, 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 and then I also bought the ACE Master the Manual, and I would recommend getting both of those materials. This ACE Master the Manual had, fill in the blanks, and then at the end it would have a quiz after every chapter. I did those things. I would recommend doing the online training that they have for this, and they take you through the book kind of in different sections. Like it'll say read chapters 1, 4, and 5, and then you have a quiz, and then read chapters 2, 5 and 6, and then you'll have a quiz. And I would recommend following that because I started testing for this. I started reading my book in September of last year, and I just felt like I was getting nowhere. I would get through a chapter and my mind would wander. And so then I contacted ACE, and I was like, I am just really struggling getting through this book. And he said, just follow the things online, and he said, start over. So that's what I did in January. I started over, and I studied pretty consistently for 4 months, and I took the test on April Fool's Day, April 1st, and passed it. But I wanted to tell you a couple of things that that I thought that you needed to know. I made cue cards. I made 3x5 cards, and so I could have them and study things that were bold in those chapters. I put on 3x5 cards. On the test, they didn't have a whole lot of math, but when you take the test, go in there. You can take some blank pieces of paper, write down all the calculations that you need to remember. BMI, and then how to get your desired body weight. You know how you take your lean body weight and you calculate the fat, and then you want to get your desired, lean body fat. You need to know that. Just remember that the waist divided by hip ratio, anything that's over 1 is considered obese. Also, make sure you didn't have to know the Carbonin formula on my test, but you do need to know other things like fat calories, how many kilocalories per gram, and for carbohydrates and alcohol and protein. You need to know that. I would write down those figures when you get in there, and then make sure you know how to look at a label and calculate how many calories are from fat, how many calories from carbs, how many calories for protein. Make sure you know how to calculate how long it's going to take somebody to lose weight. So say they're they want to lose 10 pounds, and they need to, burn 3,500 calories per week to, lose a pound. How many weeks is it going to take them to lose it? That was on the test quite a bit. So make sure you know that. They did talk about the training components, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, about stability and mobility training is phase 1. Phase 2 is movement training. Phase 3, load training. And then phase 4, performance training. And then cardiorespiratory training, aerobic-based training, aerobic efficiency training, anaerobic endurance, and anaerobic power. There were some questions about that. There was questions. I made 3x5 cards. Did I mention that already? Know about VT1 and VT2, how the talk test is how you know you're in zone 1. If you're not sure that you can talk very comfortably, then you're probably zone 2. You definitely can't talk, that zone 3. So know that. And also for your obesity, know what obesity is for BMI, and then you should know how to calculate the BMI. But there wasn't a math quiz to calculate that on mine, but yours might. So yours might be a little different. Know what the protein needs are, 0.8 to 1 grams per kilogram. for the average person, and athletes are 1.2 to 1.7. The OARS model, that was on, I believe that was on there about how to use motivational interviewing, ask open-ended questions, affirm the client's thinking, reflect, listen reflectively, and kind of summarize the OARS. Know that a person should, the recommended amounts of exercise for a person is 150 minutes per week, 5 times a day. So know that, because I think that was on there. No bad cholesterol, and LDL versus HDL, and the risk factors. Like if your LDL is 200 or over, that's like a risk factor. They didn't have much about this, but they talked about the informed consent. What did you need? A informed consent, liability waiver, agreement to participate. Those things. They did have a little bit about emotional intelligence on there. They also had a lot about the TTM, the Trans Theoretical Model, which was, pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation. Know that like the back of your hand, because that was on there a lot. And so at the beginning of the test, it started going pretty fast, but towards the end, when you start getting tired, it's almost like, okay, 2 of those questions could work, but just have the conservative ACE mindset when you're taking that test. Think conservative, right? So what else do I want to go over real quick? Type 1, type 2 diabetes, and know about the self-determination theory. That was one about its intrinsic motivation, integrated regulation. Like if someone sees themselves as a swimmer, then that's just integrated into their concept. They had the identified regulation and the introjected regulation. I already mentioned type 1, type 2 diabetes. They didn't have anything about the anatomical planes, the frontal, sagittal, transverse. I thought they might have a question on that. I didn't see one on mine. There wasn't one. Know the recommended macronutrient intake: carbohydrate 45 to 65%, protein 10 to 35%, fat 20 to 35%. Know those numbers. Those were on the test. Then the body fat norms, what's normal for a man, what's normal for a woman, what's acceptable. What's obese for a woman is over 32%, and obese for a man is over 25%. And then know about if somebody is hyperglycemic, and what their insulin levels are, what you should do. You should, let them take some insulin and then test it again, and never let them shoot any kind of insulin into direct muscle. That was one of the things that was on the pre-test, but that was on my actual test. And then know the difference between android obesity and gynoid obesity. Sometimes they might ask what's the minimal testing someone needs who appears pretty healthy, the PAR-Q, and know about those different risk factors. If someone had a father who died of heart failure, they have a whole table on risk factors. And then if someone, you take some things off if somebody had, like, I think it was low cholesterol or something like that, but study that. That's important. Operant conditioning, they did have something about that, about the antecedents, the positive reinforcement, the negative reinforcement. Like a negative reinforcement would be that you get in your car and it's dinging at you, bing, 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 until you put your seatbelt on. That's negative reinforcement, because that ding, 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 ding is irritating. So that's negative reinforcement. That kind of was confusing to me. And then they had, that was something like that was on the test. Know what realistic goals are. Make sure you know the triad, the triad for the female triad for athletes, how it's they have the eating disorder, no period, and then they have decreased bone mass. That was on the test, so know that. Let me go through this. They did have stuff about the GROW model, goal, reality, options, and then what, when, how. And then I already talked about the TTM. I already talked about being able to calculate how long it'll take someone to lose weight. And then they did have a question about vitamins. I think they had the one about the fat soluble, which one, the ADEK, ADEK. Know about B1 and B2. If I didn't say that already, you should know that. Also, they had stuff about the SOAP model on there, subjective, objective. A was assessment, P was plan. They did have that on there. Also wanted to say healthy weight gain for someone who has a regular like body fat level. How much would a doctor say that they could gain? So that was on there. And so, yeah, healthy weight gain for a pregnant woman according to her BMI. So BMI, you should know that. So I'm getting kind of long-winded here, but I just wanted to say that you got to study, and you'll do well if you go through the course materials, the ones that they have online. When you get in there and take the test, breathe, write down all your formulas and things that you want to remember. I think I mentioned that I took my time. It's a 3-hour test. I got done in like 2 hours and 45 minutes into it, and I went back, and then it tells you immediately if you passed, and so that's kind of cool. When it's scoring you, you're like, but it feels so good to pass. So I'm on my way. I'm excited about my business. It's called Vision Up. Vision Up today is on Instagram, and Vision Up is on Facebook. So I'm helping women over 40 with their health and wellness to optimize it and to live a healthier life so they can execute at a professional level better and a personal level better. So anyway, I'm Diesta. Thanks for watching. Vision Up.